Hey guys, welcome to Streak Initiative. This week we are covering environment-related current affairs questions, which are important themes for your Prelims 2021 paper. Now, without much ado, let's move on to the first question. Again, if you want to register for this program, you can find the description link in the description box. So the first question of the day is related to your UV rays. So the question is, which of the following can cause DNA damage and mutations in humans? So first, it's UVA and B both. Second is UVB, C is UVC, and D is UVA and UVC. Now, this question is important in the sense that a lot of time questions related to your rays like UV rays or radio waves or your light waves, all these questions are sometimes asked in your prelims. So in that sense, it's important. And when we're talking about UV rays, there are basically three types of UV rays that comes towards the Earth's surface. That is UVA, UVB and UVC. And some of them are important also because you get the vitamin D and all those things from your light, from your sunshine also. So and again, some of one of these rays, like when we talk about penetration into the Earth's atmosphere, the atmosphere actually protects and blocks some of the UV rays to enter into the Earth's surface, right? Because some of these rays are actually very harmful. So in that sense, UVC rays is something that do not reach the Earth's surface. They are actually completely absorbed or reflected back by the atmosphere. They are supposed to be very harmful, like they can cause a lot of DNA damage and mutation, but since they do not reach the Earth's surface, we will not count that in our options. Next is your UVA and UVB. Now, UVB can also be reflected back or absorbed by the atmosphere, but it's only some amount of it. It does reaches the Earth's surface. And again, this is a bit dangerous, like less dangerous than C, but more dangerous than UVA. So this particular set of UV rays can cause DNA damage and mutation. So we have option B and A in consideration. Let's move on to your UVA rays. Now, UVA rays is at least, actually, if you compare it to all the three, it is the least dangerous. And in fact, some amount of exposure to this particular rays cannot really cause damage, like your DNA damage or mutation. But if you have an extended period of exposure to this rays, then it might. But again, it is not as comparable to your UVB. So the answer of this question is actually B, because UVB are the most dangerous. The most dangerous are actually C, but they do not reach the Earth's surface. That is why we are considering B as an answer here. Let's move on to the next question. Now, next question is related to conventions. Now, in your environment-related paper, a lot of conventions are there. There are Earth-related conventions, there's wildlife-related conventions, there's sustainable development-related conventions. So, all of these conventions are very important. Make sure you are aware what these conventions are about, the membership, which year it was signed, what is the reason behind their signing. All this is very important. And I think over the period of time, one or the other year, there is a question on convention. So this particular set of topic is you cannot escape from. So this particular question is specifically about Minamata Convention. And you have to identify which is the correct statement out of the three statements. So the first statement here is that the objective of Minamata Convention is to protect human health and environment from anthropogenic emissions and release of mercury and mercury compounds. The second is that it addresses direct mining of mercury also, the export and import, even its safe storage and disposal. So all the things it takes care of. That is what the statement is. And the third is that even dental fillings, which is made out of amalgam. Now, amalgam is a compound that is actually made from mercury. There are other elements also like tin, but basically it's made from mercury and it's used for your fillings. Like whenever you have that cavity, the fillings that is done, that is through it. So which one is the correct statement? Now, Minamata Convention is actually dealing with mercury. In fact, the name Minamata is inspired from an incident that had taken place in Japan. The vast poisoning of mercury-related infection that spread in that particular city had led to signing of this particular convention, and it's actually a relatively new convention. Like it was signed and enforced in 2013. So the first statement is in fact correct here. It deals with mercury and mercury-related compounds. Now, if you're able to know that, okay, Minamata Convention deals with mercury, and if you look at the first statement here, it says mercury compounds also. So you can easily take a guess that the third statement, that is dental filling, which uses amalgam, which is actually one of the mercury compound, will be covered under this particular convention, right? So even by your trial and error basis, you can easily say that 1 and 3 statement is completely right. So you're left with what? C and D as an option. Now, the second statement talks about, I think this can be a bit confusing. People usually do not consider the whole process. Like they might think that, okay, import export is something that can be controlled. Like we've got a lot of different conventions which do deal with e-waste and import and export of these particular waste material, right? So you usually tend to connect to it. But in this particular convention, when we're talking about, this convention covers the whole cycle which deals with mercury. So it's a very comprehensive and holistic convention which is aimed to curb and minimize the use of mercury throughout the globe. So all the statements are correct here, and in fact the answer is D. Next question of the day is related to ozone hole over Arctic. Now usually whenever we are reading a static portion, we come across the ozone hole over Antarctic. And you are aware about the process, like when there's this too much cold, and it's actually a seasonal thing. You are aware about that when there's too much cold, there's formation of stratospheric clouds. There's chlorine-like elements in this. This goes up and interferes with the ozone hole and creates a hole as soon as the sun comes back. So that hole is then, that clouds melts and that hole is brought back to its initial state. So that seasonal thing you're pretty much aware about from your static portion. Now this question is actually about ozone hole over the Arctic, and it was in news recently. Like there were certain discoveries made regarding because the ozone hole recently had reached its maximum extension over Arctic. So that is why it was in news. So the first statement here is that it talks about the maximum extension, and I told you this is the reason why it was in news. So this statement is actually right. The second statement here talks about that recently German Aerospace Center observed the closure of ozone hole mainly because of the reduced pollution levels due to COVID-19 lockdown. Now it might look confusing for some time, but this is not the correct reason. See, the ozone hole, even in the southern hemisphere, the pollution plays a lesser role there. Like the conditions that are created over because of very cold region, like we had that polar vortex over the Arctic region. So that created a very cold condition, and the formation of stratospheric clouds and everything, that created the maximum extension of ozone hole, in fact. And when that polar vortex was actually broken down, it was then that we had closure of ozone hole. So the reason behind this is not COVID-19. It's actually linked to the idea of polar vortex phenomena that forms over the Arctic. So second statement is wrong here. First statement is right, and the answer for this question is A. The next question is related to Deeper Beale Lake. Now again, the lakes, especially if a lake is related to your Ramsar wetland, you should go through it very nicely. Recently, there were some sites that were added to Ramsar sites, even in 2021 and 2020 also. Go through them also, that they are important. Each and every Ramsar site should be on your tips. That is the basic idea here. behind this question. And in fact, not only the location, if there's certain particular feature that is associated with, like there's this Loktak Lake. Now, the floating islands, Fumtis, is something associated with it. The deer, that Sangai deer that is found there, that is also a classic feature of that particular lake. So the basic features and the key traits of that particular area you should be aware about also. Right, so we are talking about Deeperbole Lake here. Number one, it's a permanent freshwater lake in the formal channel of Brahmaputra river. And second is, it is only wetland in Assam designated as site of importance under Ramsar Convention on Wetlands. Now, if I'm not wrong, in fact, the first two words here is actually picked up from Assamese language only, if I'm not wrong. So if somebody is from Assam, I think that person will be able to easily guess that this particular lake is something associated with Assam. So yeah, this lake is actually found in Assam only, and in fact it is the only site. Usually people might confuse that maybe Kaziranga area or any other area or Manjuli Island, right? All those would be there in Assam as a Ramsar Convention also, but they are not there. The only site in Assam is this particular lake. So statement 2 is right, and statement 1 is also right. It was in fact found as a former channel of Brahmaputra river, and I think that is the major river. So that was pretty easy to guess if you knew Assam. So the answer for this particular question is C. So takeaway from this question is, again, go open the Ramsar site list. You can go to even Wikipedia. They have a good table made. Revise that table, and I think that is the task for today. The last question of the day is again dealing with a national park, which is Galathea National Park. Again, this question is there because it was in news. There was a thing called Niti Ayog's Greater Nicobar Plan, which was they were planning to prepare, and there are certain issues because see, Nicobar region is a very biodiversity rich region, right? And not only related to flora, but a lot of exclusive fauna is also found in that region. So when we are trying to develop anything, these kind of issues can crop up, and that is why this particular park was in news. And that is why the static portion or the static coverage behind this national park becomes important. Not only this, there are other national parks also in Andaman and Nicobar Islands. You should know about them also. So the first statement here is that it is located on the island of Great Nicobar in Andaman and Nicobar Island. Second is that it is an iconic nesting site in India of the famous turtle, which is giant leatherback turtle. And third is that it is home to this indigenous tribe, which is Champagne tribe. Now, the answer for this particular question is actually D. All the statements are right here. It is present in Great Nicobar region. The leatherback turtle is found here. Like there are certain turtle species that are found in India. We are aware about that place in Odisha where a lot of turtle eggs are present. Like that is a seasonal place for laying down of the eggs and all that thing. That is also important. So there are a couple of turtle species found in India. Make sure, especially you're aware about some of those species which are critically endangered or vulnerable, right? So second statement is also right. And third, yes, Champagne tribe does live in this particular area. Again, this is important because Champagne tribe was also in news. Like there was this news article where interaction with tribes in Nicobar was, asked to not be there because any kind of virus, if it enters into these particular tribes, that can completely vanish these tribes, right? So through that angle also, this particular topic was in news. So yeah. Answer for this question is D, guys, and thank you so much for watching. This is a quick revision of few topics. Do revise that Ramsar site. Take few moments and revise that. Thank you so much and all the best.
Subscribe to our YouTube channel and press the bell icon on the YouTube app and never miss another update from Civilsdaily.